You're not just learning to write, but you're writing to learn.
Hello, fans of SRSD. You're watching the SRSD Mentor Series, helping you change student lives forever. This episode is on how mastering SRSD Critical Genre Knowledge dramatically improves student writing and learning skills. Today we have 4 SRSD experts: Karen Harris, creator of SRSD, and SRSD researchers Linda Mason, Gary Troya, and Tanya Santangelo. Karen, can you give us a 10,000-foot view of SRSD genre knowledge and how it is so much more than just teaching the elements of mnemonics?
One of the hearts of SRSD is helping young writers develop critical genre knowledge. And we don't say, I'm teaching the opinion essay genre or I'm teaching full-blown argumentative writing. We say, I'm teaching mnemonics. We don't just teach those elements. We teach a great deal more. Let's just take persuasive because it's so hot right now. You have to consider your topic, your audience, and your purpose. So we're teaching consideration of the topic. What would be a good argument to put a soda machine in your school? What would be a good argument for your classmate? And then we'll say, do you think your principal would like the argument that you could have more sugar in the day? And then, of course, your purpose, understanding what it means to persuade. When they write, they also learn you need a good opening, something that will grab your reader. Then you need to organize your notes, at least 3 reasons with explanations, and then a good ending. And we talk about the linking words, how you want to use effective words, and you don't want to be boring, and it all has to make sense. And you can hear there's a host of what kids are learning about this genre and how to be an effective writer in the genre. But too many people don't see that and don't understand that all of that is being taught.
Great, Karen. Gary, can you go into more detail about how SRSD genre knowledge focuses on audience awareness and how reading helps writing in the SRSD process?
So there's always this attention to thinking about the audience, who that audience is, making sure that it's a relevant audience, an interested audience. What might they want to learn about this topic? What's the best way to go about communicating that information? In other words, what is the most appropriate genre and form of that genre for communicating about that topic? As an example, I've worked with teachers who have basically used writing notebooks, and they're going to write a feature article, which is an informational paper. The students would take time to interview other students in the class to find out what they already know about that topic, and they record all this information in their writing notebook. And through the process of conducting those interviews, they're building knowledge about their audience and what their audience needs are. And then we spend extensive time reading exemplar texts, touchstone texts, mentor texts that illustrate the qualities that we want students to try to emulate in their own writing. Often those qualities are going to include the specific characteristics of a particular genre. So it's a dialogic process and engage in immersive writerly reading. They're reading texts with not only the intent of understanding what the text says in terms of reading comprehension, but also to kind of pull behind the veil and look behind the writing at what choices the author made, why that author made those choices. So that really helps students kind of dive deep into the genre and building that capacity for students to be analytic about the purposes of an author when writing a text, and the choices that were made by that author is really important to SRSD instruction.
Thanks, Gary. Tanya, let's dive into the details of SRSD genre knowledge and how explicit instruction and genre devices help achieve these astonishing results.
One of the things that the research supports that makes SRSD one of the most effective models is because of how the model holds together. So you have a specific instructional approach, and you have the stages of instruction. So it's not just here's a strategy, but rather we are going to comprehensively and explicitly teach everything that stands for behind it. So if we're going to teach, pick your idea, we have to teach you how to pick an idea. And built into SRSD is, how do we do that? What's actually taught in SRSD has much more breadth and developmental perspectives. And then the other piece is that you also have genre devices. So what is it that a narrative writer would use to help carry the story? Well, that's different than what they would use in an opinion piece or in, some kind of informational text. And then I think the other thing to think about is, so what is it that a writer would do in a persuasive piece to convince the reader? So something like that is going to be taught. And then there's also transition words are big, or sequencing words are big in persuasion. So what are some words that we could use that would entice your reader, that would be just irresistible? So there's a vocabulary component. And then just the construction of sentences and paragraphs. Is every sentence going to be 3 words in the same order? Well, no, writers try to vary their sentence structure. Well, how do they do that? And why do they do that? And what does that look like in persuasive writing, different from something like expository writing? So there's multiple layers, and I think genre knowledge gets defaulted to text structure. Again, it's typically what would be seen in the simple the letter mnemonics, but obviously it's a lot more than that.
Thanks, Tanya. Now that we have a feel for the depth of SRSD genre knowledge, let's ask Linda what it's like to succeed for teachers using SRSD for the very first time.
So in seeing them change from writers who hated to write, who did not feel successful, to see them smile at their success is probably the most rewarding thing that I've had in my research. This actually happened in China. I was training a group of Chinese teachers who were teaching English, so they were teaching writing. And so I said, let's start simple. And when they saw the gains in students writing from just doing that one simple thing, they wanted to learn more.
That'll do it for this episode of the SRSD Mentor Series, sponsored by SRSD Online and Writing to Learn. I'm your host, Randy Barth, and until next time, please share, like, and subscribe. And as always, send this link to any friends who want to change students' lives forever.